This opinion will prophesize upon whether Arendt's terror could already be seen in antiquity, and specifically on the point of Babylon as the city where nobody knows their neighbor. And then, we have a wonderful good fortune in that we're going to get to have a Dostoevsky citation. So we should sort of be happy about that. It's not every day we get a good Dostoevsky citation. And it's appropriate to the theme, and it will develop the argument. So now first let's look at, so I'm going to do it in the style that current PhD writing is done, which basically means you just string together a bunch of quotations and then through some lame ass conceit pretend they're all connected, but basically it's just to prove that you've done your reading. And then if they like you and you fit in with the department, then they'll award you the PhD. I mean, I realize that the people that do the judging don't all come from one place, but nonetheless, that's really how it works, because this person has been put forward by certain people, and he's the right kind of person, and he's the type we want in with us, and he has the right meekness. He's the way we like our colleagues to be, and let's award him this degree. But in any case, I'm going to use that. Let's look at Arendt and try to say what terror means through that method of giving it like a lot of quotations. This is the most abstract, and also it's sort of almost like things Strauss writes. So it's beautiful in its simplicity. If lawfulness is the essence of non-tyrannical government and lawlessness, this is from her totalitarian book of 1951, is the essence of tyranny. If lawfulness is the essence of non-tyrannical government and lawlessness is the essence of tyranny, then terror is the essence of totalitarianism. So in antiquity, one, tyranny is just a form of government de facto, but then also it's determined by the natural law tradition. I think that's when it starts, by the Romans, by Cicero and so on. It's determined that a tyranny should be understood as that the people hate the ruler and want to kill him. So it becomes a tyranny at the moment that the people, as a sort of Gemeinsinn, or sort of collective sense, decide that their leader is bad. Now notice how tyranny relies on something primitive, and so the Dostoevsky quote will directly get at this and ask whether this is this type of individuality or isolation is different from what we're talking about in a Babylon, that people don't know their neighbor situation. Babylon, the giant, the mega city, and the city of inequity and so on. The city of Baal and of everything terrible. So let's look at some more. Like I said, we'll look at a bunch of them from this totalitarian book. Loneliness, isolation, the common ground of totalitarian government, and for ideology or logicality, the preparation of its executioners and victims. Loneliness, the common ground of totalitarian government. So like all these individuals make up the stones in the common ground of the totalitarian flooring. And for ideology or logicality, the preparation of its executioners and victims. Okay, so this very fact of this making into these little divided stones and everybody's an individual, this notion that it's good to do that becomes the ideology or the logic of the totalitarian, or the ground of totalitarianism, which he's saying its essence is terror, or the constant Christian says trespass. So this sort of like trespass or terror is the constant essence of our time. But did this exist still yet? Then again, we're asking, did this type of situation, this Kafkaean situation, exist already in Babylon? Is it already the ancient thing, or what exactly consists of the new form of government? And actually, Arendt insists this is an absolutely new form of government, totalitarianism. So let's read a couple more citations here. Terror becomes total when it becomes independent of all opposition. It rules supreme when nobody any longer stands in its way. So, I mean, you could say, I was just thinking about that, could we say Robert De Niro, by making his sappy speeches on MSNBC, which is a conservative-owned sort of network, which is just designed to, like, I guess it's designed on the idea to give the most extreme power to the left side, to both sides of the argument, left and right, Fox and MSNBC. But then the result is they present the leftist view in a rightist style, in the style that Fox News has developed, which is like derationalizing or something, somehow deranging. But okay, in any case, like, I was just trying to think of the question of, is it that, like, it's true, some people come and speak out against Trump, but this says all opposition, terror becomes total when it becomes independent of all opposition. So is that a real opposition? Is it some idiot, Robert De Niro, little midget person, actor, giving a talk, oh, Trump is so bad? Is this actual opposition? Or is this like something that at the worst, it would at least inoculate against opposition by giving a little kick to the... it's not really real opposition, that's the problem. It rules supreme when nobody any longer stands in its way. So does anybody any longer stand in the way of Trump? It's not at all clear. I don't think so. I would say no. Okay, partially that hangs on the interpretation, and I think I go with Samuel Moyn totally on this. He cites the Kavanaugh thing, and he said, and that's the core. That's the core of the decision. So I'm saying Samuel Moyn is basically pointing to that as the core of the finding of the decision. And the way I interpret it, maybe it's stupid, but the way it seems to me is, yes, because, but even if my specific version is off, I just give sort of the general ballpark of how it should be construed. Because in America, people take bad lawsuits all the time deliberately in order to win the lawsuit, but not get much of a settlement, and then the corporation is thereby inoculated against further lawsuits because it's already been settled. They paid for that, but it was such a weak lawsuit, they didn't get anything out of it. So it's like, this is like, it's like that. So it looks to me like Robert said, look, we have to save face. We have to pretend that it actually even helps Trump, that they get to keep up the pretense, right? This proclivity to present himself as a moral authority. Roberts, who is a moral authority. I'd say I'm an American. I'd say he is a moral authority in America. I don't actually share his views. I'm not I know, well, in some way I do. Actually, I guess I do in some way, because he, at the time of his only to up to this point, not his political views or his Republican-leaning views or the thing about the flag, but just in his jurisprudential style, okay, as a jurist, and well, let me just say specifically what I'm talking about. During his confirmation hearings, he totally dismissed, as I do, all this Cass-Sunstein bullshit about the originalism and the other things. I mean, I know that the originalism is the Scalia position, and some other people had taken it. But the Cass-Sunstein sort of made that famous by writing a bunch of books that got people all the time asking during the confirmation hearings the candidates what their judicial philosophy was in terms of originalism or living constitution, the supposed two big directions. I agree with him on this, and I think it is actually an essential point. So, like, I totally disagree with Moindo also on the other point, on this point that judges vote. It's true, de facto judges vote. But supposedly the main thing judges do is essentially they judge. So to say they vote is like to say they do something arbitrary. To say they judge is to bring in a whole different discussion. So part of that discussion is that Alito has said he goes by the law of precedent. That's the main thing for him. So he doesn't say, yes, I believe in summum bonum. In other words, that the law will be worked here through going through the precedents, or that we'll get closer to the truth of the law, really saying what the law is in the old sense, in the James Wilson sense, instead of in the positivist sense that now prevails even for Scalia, who was a positivist, who just tried to switch the source of power from himself to the elected officials. This is a form, which in any case is not the notion of the founders at all, not the notion of James Wilson, and just a change in the meaning of what is means in the statement what the law is. Because there's the old sense of what the law is through precedents, you Entwicklungsfähigkeit, you roll it out, you develop it, and eventually you get to the gist of what this law is through looking at it through all different angles, different facts, looking at different factual situations that are then interpreted into that principle. That's the old idea. The current idea is Congress or the Constitution are basically, here's where it gets fuzzy, because we're not just referring to statute law, we're referring to the Constitution, but it's like we're supposed to treat the Constitution according to some theory of how to, something like original interpretation, or something like the language in the clauses as it was according to the dictionaries written at the time, as though those dictionaries had legal terms of art in them. I mean, on the face of it, all these things just a flop. There's a contest to try to give some different meaning to what the law is than the founders gave it. And Scalia is one of the big guys, and Cass-Sunstein is one of the big guys that gives a version of, we know what they actually meant, but here's what we're going to say what the law is means. We're now going to decide what it means to say what the law is, in terms of construing the law and stating it according to the current case. Or even just to state it, not even to do casuistry and read it into a case, but just to state it. What does it mean to just state what the law is? And there's all these, and originalism is one. Theoretical, sort of a big genus of different methods of trying to do that. You see how far we go with these divagations once we get pissed into this, into the ditch. But let's go back and give yet another question of this. Total terror, the essence of totalitarian government, exists neither for nor against men. it is supposed to provide the forces of nature or history. See, nature and history are this big split from German idealism, basically, like the split that Hegel has inherited, basically. The Newtonian law and the sort of the essence of Volkgeist, or of people's mind, is supposed to show in there what they consider important, and what they consider important is supposed to be in the history books. This is an immensely, awesomely contested notion. It's the common way of contesting it is to talk about presentism. But then you can always ask and then the common way of dispelling it is to say, well, there were different standards in different times. When you're in the other time, conform to that standard, just as the ancient Romans said. Whatever city I'm standing in, and conform to the mores of that city. If I'm in antebellum South, then I conform to the Scarlett O'Hara table of values. We have to drive everything back to the standard at the time if we're to adequately judge the sort of whether a statue should stand in a public square or not, whether it's an obscenity. We wouldn't put up a statue to Hitler in the public square because he's supposed to be the figure of the highest sort of valence of balefulness. But yeah, so we have to have some standard then to say which is more or less like the ones that we won't allow for because they're moral obscenities. This whole split between history then being assigned with this type of question and nature with these other type of explanations is sort of and then all kinds of versions of them is pointed at a little bit here. Let me reread it. Total terror, the essence of totalitarian government, exists neither for nor against men. It is supposed to provide the forces of nature or history with an incomparable instrument to accelerate their movement freely through humanity. So this is already, in fact, this is actually a statement of accelerationism. So that's interesting. So Arendt has a nice statement of accelerationism here. The accelerationism comes through these forces of terror. So what I'm trying to get at is, now, is Dostoevsky right? So let's read the Dostoevsky quote. Is Dostoevsky right in what he's pointing to? I think it must happen by the logic of the novel. We're talking about the brothers Karamazov already back in 1820 or something, because it's supposed to happen in the early life of Father Zoisma. So book 6 in the Garnet translation is far and away the best translation, because she's more literate. The new ones try to do more vernacular translations, and they're sometimes showing the repetition of Dostoevsky's actual language and things like that, but they're horrible because they don't have the philosophic sense of Garnet. You ask, well, I say horrible, I mean they're not horrible, but Garnet is much better. You ask where it will, you ask when it will come to pass. It will come to pass, but first we have to go through the period of isolation. So this is from the episode of the called The Russian Monk, chapter 6, Father Zoisma, recounting an episode from his youth. And I'm figuring this must have been maybe 1820 or something, so it's very early. But it's important. The reason I want to isolate that is because Dostoevsky's already saying the first people that became aware of this condition for terror, for this, what Arendt's saying is the new form of government, what has in its essence terror, they're already visible around, according to Dostoevsky's backward, to a novel written in 1860 or whenever. They seem to already be visible around 1820 by the most dominant or the most original personalities, which this mysterious stranger that Father Zoisman is interviewing is supposed to be, or is presented as by Dostoevsky. What do you mean by isolation? I asked him. Father Zoisman says, why, the isolation prevails everywhere, above all in our age. It has not fully developed. It has not reached its limit yet. For everyone strives to keep his individuality as apart as possible, wishes to secure the greatest possible fullness and independent life for himself. But meantime, all his efforts result not in attaining fullness of life, but self-destruction. For instead of self-realization, he ends by arriving at complete solitude. And then this speech goes on, and it's all very, very worth reading beyond the point that I just got to, but I just wanted to stop on where he's hit the word solitude again. So this is evidence of this as being, this possibility of terror being something more recent, and then we could see Donald Trump as exercising that, because everybody is sufficiently isolated, and like somebody, like an employee trying to get a job at a by knocking on the by trying to just walk in the door of Goldman Sachs or whatever. Oh, could I have an appointment with Mr. Diamond, please? So yeah, everybody is in the position of just sort of they want to be a podcaster that's like got more reach or something. But I mean, isn't that even all the more intensely so as in the last number of years, as the ease of becoming a podcaster has exploded. But that's just one way of looking at how the isolated individuals, which Nietzsche thematizes in this notion of the fraternities for the sake of exploitation of the non-members and all this kind of stuff, and other forms of utilitarian vulgarity in the famous passage. But so I think it's interesting. 1820, we're seeing this Adam Smith age. They've already for a very long time, this East India companies have been active. It's interesting. I don't know what the key factor is, but it seems to be the same factor that intensified. So one thing that's interesting to me is it's also in Russia. So just as much as Russia and in the West, even though there's another factor that's different. I guess I want to say the possibility for terror is independent of this other kind of collectivism or nationhood, this other sort of sense of... So one sense of the nationhood is Raskolnikov. The whole point of his crime, I mean, the drama of it is like, can he commit these murders for the sake of something that will play a role in the ultimate life of the Russians, or even of humanity. But the whole point is he's doing it for... He never even mentions this, really, not that much. He doesn't go in. It's just sort of he's taken for granted. Of course, this whole thing is not because he wants to get rich and go around boasting that, I have so many billions of dollars and my kids are going to fight over it and blah, blah, blah. His whole point is, something that will be about the ultimate life of humanity as a whole will be benefited, and then can you commit a crime in order to make this come about? So it's like, in a way, this is like this is the situation that Zizek in his embassy... I mean, he's a very stupid person, and this is one thing. He doesn't understand this, and then he says he doesn't even make any effort to read what any sense into what Dostoevsky is saying, or the encapsulation of him in the if there is no God, everything is forbidden version, or everything is permitted version. Zizek's is everything is forbidden. If there is no God, everything is forbidden. Dostoevsky's is everything is permitted. If everything becomes a matter of mechanism, then Raskolnikov, it doesn't seem, I mean, Raskolnikov would simply be making himself co-equal with the state. That would be the whole conceit in a way. As soon as Raskolnikov says there's a few of us men who are equal to the sovereign and can play a role of and basically can be, it's like vigilantism. It's as simple as that. It's just Raskolnikov is saying there's a few of us who are like Batman or whatever, and we're true of art and so on, and we can do these things which the state ought to be doing anyway because they're good. And then the things that are good are supposed to be the ones where only one or two people die, but there's the ultimate benefit to the people, to the country as a whole, or even to the world as a whole. I mean, I guess supposedly they don't actually develop it, but I guess supposedly because the money he got from killing the pawnbroker, he was going to use to do something good. They don't even go into develop that at all, or whether he was going to use it to go sail to America and write a book or whatever. I don't know. Fyodor Tkachov, Anarchy. But okay, is this? Let's look at what's the ancient version? I think the ancient version is inequity, and the Babylonian version of nobody knows their neighbor, everyone's an isolated unit, everyone's against the other in a way. I don't know. It's not. It doesn't seem like it's the same thing. But it remains nonetheless to spell out sort of what the. I guess. Well, let's end it with it's just a theoretical statement, which just sort of moves the goalpost in a way, but it doesn't really tell us that much. Agamben says the way to read Kafka is that Kafka shows the way things are once you realize that the law doesn't exist. So it's sort of like terror. I don't know if terror can be. I don't know if there can be both terror and tyranny. It's not obvious. That's a question I'll have to look into. Is it possible to have both, according to Arendt, to have both tyranny and terror? I guess at first blush, tyranny seems to imply that the people. I guess that's sort of a concrete point there, or like what I want to say. It's a good, clear point that there could be a government where the whole people could hate the government, but they couldn't. There'd be, it's easy for the U.S. government to put down a militia group, to put down any small group. The whole people could hate the government, and therefore it would meet this ancient criteria of tyrannical rule. But it would be absolutely impossible for them to affect a change of the tyrant, to remove the tyrant. I think somehow. So the question is, what's the connection to this and this that Arendt says is an absolutely new form of government, totalitarianism or trespassism, if you like, where everyone, being an individual, is unable to wholly stand up for themselves because they're always being trespassed upon or terrorized. But that way of looking at it doesn't seem to obviously have any contradiction with the tyrannical way. Why do we need first the cessation of the possibility? So I guess maybe this does go with that. Let me just read that one more time. Seems like what she says actually agrees with that. And then I'll stop. Terror becomes totalitarian when it becomes independent of all opposition. So, okay, I guess that is one. That's a good, so this is sort of a good piece of, I think that's a sound piece of, how should that be called? Sort of something deduced from what we've already got. In any case, it's an inference. I think it's a sound and solid inference. It's almost like something deduced and that must go there, or a missing part of the puzzle that must fit in there. Okay, so the possibility of tyranny has to end because the tyranny it partially means the possibility of killing the tyrant through some kind of military uprising. Of course, one could always say chance plays a larger role in these things than we know, and that's why, for instance, I think Prigozhin was very close to succeeding. There's just a few things had gone just a little different, just as if Comey hadn't reopened the election, in this crazy way, like he investigates Hillary Clinton while she's running for president, and then he reopens it at the nth hour, and then right when she's going to the Rust Belt, so that they see like on her face the sort of like response, like tingling on her skin of this reopening of the case, which is just like what does one say about that? Is nothing even remotely like that has like been normal in American practice ever. So chance plays a big role in these things, but nonetheless, in other words, I'm thinking, like, can you ever really know that the opposition can't succeed, or that the president couldn't be assassinated or that some insurrection between the generals, between the Joint Chiefs of Staff, that something else, that there couldn't be some kind of court intrigues, whatever. Do you ever really know that there's crazy events could happen? There's clarities about how we want to settle the question of like what's the normal general case, or whether there should be a question of what's the normal general case of a tyranny. Because also this is still, I go through this partly because it's still like an open question, because Dugan really is a proponent of that. He's like, you have ultimate sovereignty unless the people decide they hate you, and which at that moment you would become the tyrant, and the people have the right then to assassinate you because they hate you. It's like there's immediate collective connection in that. I think Raskolnikov, that's what's troubling me too, because I think Raskolnikov and all the Dostoevsky characters still have that immediate collective connection with one another. But nonetheless, this one dude, the mysterious stranger, is talking about this period of isolation. And I think the period of isolation, I'll just give one more piece of evidence. Sometimes I cite this. It's exactly it's still prominent today in social media culture. It's exactly this that Dostoevsky says in one of his writer's diaries. One of his characters in a short story he writes in one of his writer's diaries entries or something in some journal entry says, why are they everywhere and I'm nowhere? And this is sort of like a statement of the ultimate situation that the mysterious stranger is pointing to when talking about this period of isolation.